Hey guys, and welcome to the Small Business Big Stories podcast. I'm your host, Brittany, and I'm so excited to be bringing you some of the best Toronto female entrepreneurs and their stories. This podcast is for my Toronto ladies, millennial ladies to be exact, who are looking to start their own side hustle or to take their passion project full time. Now, we're going to be working on that self-confidence and helping you see that badass businesswoman that you are. But we're also going to be equipping you with tangible resources and tools. For example, where to even go to register your business, what platforms to use when you start invoicing your clientele, and so much more. When I was first starting my business, and that wasn't too long ago, I was a bit overwhelmed, really nervous, really hesitant, and I started to lean on the mentors and the female entrepreneurs around me. And I thought to myself, how selfish would I be if I didn't share this with aspiring female entrepreneurs, and specifically my Torontonians? This is my home. This is where my heart is. And this is where I want to help out the most. So grab a pen and paper, get comfy, be prepared to learn a lot, and be prepared to be inspired. Hey, Allison, thank you so much for coming on today. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm so happy that you were able to make the time to come on the podcast. I've been wanting you to feature as a guest. You sort of been on my mind ever since I actually started the podcast and decided to pivot to highlighting female Toronto entrepreneurs. And I'm like, Allison fits this so well. I've just been coming to Textur Studio for so long, and you just like the shop just embodies like the quirkiness of Toronto, and especially the Leslieville area as well. I just feel like it's such a staple of the Leslieville area, and it speaks to the culture in Leslieville. There's just there's like so many quirks and different pockets that makes it Leslieville, that just makes it so unique. So anyways, I'm going to stop talking for a second, pass it off to you, let everyone know who you are and what Textur Studio is, and maybe a little bit about the birth story of Textur.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Brittany. It's so
Absolutely.
great to be asked to be on this. I'm super excited, and I've brushed up on all of your podcasts with a lot of really awesome people. So it's a definite privilege to be talking to you today. So my name is Allison. I own Textur Studio in Leslieville. We have been open for over 7 years now. So it's my little living room in the East End is kind of an extension of me, and it has been for all that time. But I started the salon 7 years ago. It's definitely taken a transformation over time, but it's always kind of been my right arm, or a part of me in a way. But I started it with someone else initially, and then have since branched off just to run it on my own. And yeah, it's my little salon in the East End.
Awesome. Awesome. So you offer obviously haircuts, color, styling. I know before you guys were doing like pre-COVID, I think you were doing like microblading, brows as an option. Is that going
Yeah,
to come back?
I dabble in little things along the way, of course. So we've done a little bit of everything. We've done makeup, we've done microblading. Of course, our core services are haircuts and color. And as time has gone on, we, for whatever reason, and I think based on the image that we project, we also do a lot of really cool fashion colors, and I like to sculpt patterns into people's heads when I shave their heads. So we
I'm excited
do
for
kind of
mine.
a, yeah, I'm so excited. We do a very broad range of services, and I think again, as time has gone on, we've kind of focused in on some of the niche services that are offered in our area, and happily, accept amazing clientele that want to try new and fun things.
Absolutely. Yeah. You explained it perfectly. Every time I walk in, or actually, let me go back to like when I first walked in. This was a while ago now. I want to say I was probably in my early 20s. No, it can't be that long because you've been open for 7 years, right?
7 years, 7.5 years
Okay.
now.
So it might have actually been when you guys opened,
It must have been
roughly
very
like maybe a
close.
little after you guys opened. And I think you still had a partner at the time, a business partner at the time. And I walked in and I was like, this is awesome. Like, this is where I'm going to get my hair done. Because,
That's
when you
amazing.
think about a salon that you go into, you sometimes, it depends on where you go, right? Like, you think about bright lights and like these huge mirrors, and you just, there's like a certain smell and just a certain vibe that goes into a hair salon. I think maybe just personally speaking, it's the hair salons that I had previously gone to, which is where this sort of image comes from. I know everybody's experience is different, but when I walked into yours, I was like, this is more like it. This is
That's
where
really
I
cool.
feel, at home. And you want to feel that way, or at least I want to feel that way when I walk into a hair salon. I'm trusting someone with my luscious locks, and I don't, and it's really important that people do feel comfortable in a space where they're making changes to their physical appearance.
For
And
sure.
so when I walk in now, it's more and more become like your best friend's living room. Like, you
Yeah.
just walk in and you're like, all right. And you're like greeted by this like lovely gentleman or woman. And you just like hang up your coat whenever the season is what it is. And then you're just greeted with all this, like all these pleasantries and this great vibe and awesome music. And yeah, you're just like hanging out with good friends, having good conversation, and you just happen to be getting your hair done at the same time. I
That's
think
awesome.
that
Yeah.
you
It
did
was
like a great job
thank you.
with doing that.
It was definitely like partially intentional, and then also unintentional, just kind of naturally went that way based on salons I've worked in the past, like similar to what you said. A lot of salons, and in all the good ways as well, they have a more of a sterile aesthetic to them.
Yeah.
So, like grayscale, black attire, white walls, really, really clean
Yes.
finish. And I wanted it to be more an extension of, make myself feel comfortable, really. And then just by doing that and being comfortable, you start to attract as well the people that feel comfortable in that environment as well. So I did want to stray a little bit from what I had known, because in my idea, what I had known hadn't worked in certain ways. So I wanted to
Mhm.
make it work in my way and also be comfortable in my own space. And then it works in so many different ways, because you end up attracting people that work for you, that are of similar mindset, and also clients that kind of want to experience that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, like I was saying, you did such a great job creating this environment that is such a true reflection of you and your staff and everybody's personality, and just making everyone feel like they are comfortable being their unique selves. I've seen some of the great work that you have done with your clients, just in terms of like the colors and the designs that they are so open and willing to experiment with. And it's such a cool experience and a cool journey to go on, because I don't just feel like I go in, and I'm sure a lot of your clients can speak to this, but I don't feel like I'm just going in to get a haircut. I feel like I'm going in, like I said, best friend's living room, and we're just sort of experimenting with something that it is super important in a way, because it is your sort of like internal creativity and expressing that in your physicality, right? So like you're able to sort of take who you are, uniquely you, and express that through like color, cut, design. And I think that is the best way of self-expression, like the best kind of self-expression. Honestly, I wish I could be so much more experimental with my hair. There are so many things that I want to do, but just because of the jobs that I hold, the tattoos, and it seems to be enough. I seem to be like just hitting that threshold of like, okay, Brittany, we love you. And,
now.
but you know what? That's another thing to me too, right? Is that we are in 2021. We live in Toronto, and I've seen companies sort of expand in terms of their view and their perspective on self-expression, whether it be tattoos or hair color or piercings, and how that sort of fits in with the look of professionalism.
Totally.
I think to a certain degree, it's a little BS, if I can say.
I'm right on board with that.
Yeah. I feel like, just because this week or like this month, I want to put like a little purple in my hair, you know, how does that really speak to my professionalism or my level of professionalism? Do you have clients that come in who are just like, I want to do this, but I don't know because of my job?
We definitely have had that a lot, and also because of our aesthetic and because of the work we produce, and we do showcase, even if it's a small subset of our day, we do showcase those, fashion colors and that kind of thing in order to show what we love to do and also to attract that kind of clientele. But it's something I'm constantly gauging with clients kind of in the corporate realm is like, do you get away with this? Could you get away with this? Would you want to do this? Not pushing too hard, but over the years, I think it has changed a lot, the conversation there, in that people who previously were like, absolutely, it's a no-go, I could never put that pink in my hair, are now kind of like, oh, well, that other person in the office had a little strip of color. And so that kind of got me thinking. They didn't get the wrath of management. So, things like that, where we're starting to see a lot more people that are willing to at least like dabble or get their feet wet a little bit. So that's kind of cool. And also I feel like it's a safe space for that. So seeing us, like certain things you can kind of hide, or, on our side, it's our job to be like, okay, if you want to have this, we could do it in a different way. We could maybe put it underneath. So you can do your business during the day, and then, on the weekend, you tie your hair up and you show a little design in the back, or like your little strip of color, things like that. So, it is changing for sure as well. And I hope it continues to change so we can keep creating.
Absolutely. Well, I'm so happy to hear that, because I have seen evolution happen for sure. But I do still see a little bit of that older school mentality, which there's nothing wrong with. I mean, when you grow up in a certain era and professionalism is defined a certain way, to sort of transition out of that, it's a hard pill to swallow. But to see that progression, and for you to tell me that, you're hearing it from clients, it's really cool, because I think things like, things that you do with your hair, I think, like I said, it's just another form of self-expression. And I mean, I don't necessarily know what it has to do, but again, I'm speaking from like a millennial perspective, where I'm just very much of the mindset that no matter what you look like, it doesn't necessarily depict like your intelligence.
Totally.
Or, what you know about a certain product or brand, or whatever I'm consuming from you, as a service. So, yeah.
There are a few parallels there as well with what's happening right now, and with the pandemic, certain things that we saw to be the traditional way and the rules we follow, just because that's the way they were, are now things are changing in corporate, in other realms as well. So like the working from home and stuff. So when you start to see the disconnect between like the old way and now kind of like going to the new way, like, oh, you can work from home and things still get done. Like, you start to see in other ways how it can shift maybe into the hair realm also. So that is, as much as the pandemic has been a source of frustration and craziness for everyone, it's also, kind of led us into this new way, and hopefully in hair service as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that we were talking about this the other day, but just like imagining a time if you could do someone's hair virtually.
Oh, don't do that.
Oh, too late for that.
Yeah. Oh, too much.
We'll work around that.
If only there was a way. We have not mastered that yet, so we're still needed.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, forever. Yeah. But no, you bring up an excellent point about how the pandemic has opened up these new doors and these new and unveiled these new perspectives of what work looks like, and what the world looks like in terms of, transitioning a lot of services virtually and just redefining certain industries. So I love that you made that parallel between like what has happened in the workspace with the pandemic, which is like with also what has happened with people and expressing creativity, and maybe, bleeding a little bit more into people's way of self-expression. And, if you're working from home and, the meetings look a little different now. So does that mean that, you can look a little different at work now?
Yeah.
And yeah, so that is definitely a cool perspective. And I hope it goes in that direction for sure.
I mean, people have been seeing that I would maybe in their perspective, they're worse. So, I mean, their long hair, their shags and all that. So who knows, maybe we can throw a little pink and purple in there and say nothing about it.
Absolutely. So with Textur, was this sort of a baby of yours that had been thought of, while you were like in high school, or like, did you always know that you wanted to be your own boss and get into hair? Is that something that you always knew?
I think there was always a bit in my mind that I wanted to be my own boss in some way. How I was going to do that was not something I was very defined in the initial stages or in high school. I actually went to school for psychology at the University of Waterloo and graduated. And then it just started to leak in. I was always very creative, always did art, and would do my sister's hair, do little updos, and dabbled in makeup as well. So, in procrastinating time in university, I started cutting my own hair actually. And then I cut it to a point where I had no more hair left. So anyways, at that point, once I had graduated, I went to hair school because I was like, this seems like the natural progression. I mean, for most people it would be to go to graduate school, but for me it was hair school. And then worked in a few hair salons. Again, like I said before, very sterile, aesthetically environment. So I kind of wanted to break away from that. When you see things that don't work in that environment, it's kind of that, angsty teenage mentality where you like end that, break away from that, and do my own thing. So it was a little bit, so it was kind of me just wanting to break away from it. There's a little bit of, having some overconfidence in a way at the time, being a little bit younger and, I can do it better mentality. So So, I mean, it worked in my benefit. And I think sometimes in starting any business, you have to have I don't know if it's an overconfidence, but definitely a baseline, like true belief in yourself. Whether that's a bit of an illusion in some ways, it doesn't really matter because the confidence has to start with you, and then you can project that to your clients and in starting it, because you're going to get, if you think of all the hurdles, before doing it, you'll never get started. So you almost have to kind of have your blinders on and full faith in yourself.
Absolutely. Just to paint a picture, everybody, when you walk into Allison's studio, there is 90s like hip hop and R&B playing. There's graffiti on the wall. There's now a beautiful neon sign right as you walk in the door. It is just every just Torontonian, millennial, quirky. You don't even have to be a millennial to really enjoy it, but any like Toronto, quirky, unique individual is welcome in the studio and would love just the overall vibe of the studio. And not only is the overall aesthetic amazing, but you're not only greeted by an awesome individual at the front desk, you are greeted by an awesome fur baby.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Burger.
When did you start bringing Burger to work, to the studio?
Burger has been there since day one. I was just talking to a client the other day who has also been a longtime client. She's like, I've had Burger since she was like 2 years old. I'm like, oh my gosh, she was 2.
Yeah.
She was this little Burger. Now she's a big Burger. Well, big-ish. Yeah. But yeah, so Burger has been a staple of the salon since day one. Our little mascot.
Yeah.
A very sleepy manager, I guess.
One that just goes with the flow, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Even previously, when I worked at another hair salon just before opening, she was welcome there. So she's always been in the salon atmosphere. Like, I've always brought her to work since I've had her. So she's a little stylist dog.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And again, just really adds to the overall vibe of the studio. You just feel that you can just relax and you can play a little fetch with Burger. And you can just, you're in good hands. You're going to get your hair exactly what you wanted, if not better. Usually it's better. And you walk out. Yeah, it's been such a cool ride. I remember not the first time, but it was one of the first times I just walked in and I was like, just cut it all off. And the stylist that I was seeing at the time was like, I'm sorry, what? We're doing what? I'm like, yeah, we're gonna cut it all off. I'm starting fresh. And as soon as she was about to cut my hair, she's like, okay, we're gonna cut it now. And I was like, okay.
I'm ready.
I think just because, and I know this is pretty typical for a lot of people, you have such an attachment to your hair. It is such a big part of your identity for a lot of people. And for me personally, it is. I do love my hair. I love my curls. At one point, I did not, and I wanted just like pin straight hair. I just went sort of through that phase. But love my hair, but just wanted a change. And it was great. It was great just like being able to sit there and have that experience and just know that this was just another phase for me and that, hair grows back, but this was just like a cool thing that I was doing. Again, another form of self-expression. Have you had clients where they were just like, they wanted to do something completely, I'm sure you have, but like just within your time at Textur, just completely dramatic. And, they sort of like looked at it at the end and was like, what did I do? But in a good way.
Totally. I mean, I think also, again, because we have that comfortable environment, people are a little bit more willing to, go into that territory of like a big change. Obviously, we still have certain markers in place where it's like, let's go through the roll of questions here as the stylist. Let's make sure you were doing it for all the right reasons and not the impulse. As much as we love doing big change and fun colors, we never want someone to be kind of throwing themselves into it for the wrong reasons or something they might regret. So we do have things in place where it's like, are we sure we're on board with this? But again, yeah, I think because we've set the environment in a certain way, people are a little bit more comfortable doing things like that. And we also experience a little bit more of that type of service. So they're in good hands. It's like, we've got this. We can do this together. We can cut all your hair off today together.
This is our haircut. This isn't just your haircut. It's our haircut. Awesome. Yeah. So you're not originally from Toronto. You're from Markham. So why did you choose Toronto as your home base for your studio?
Toronto was always, it was always a cool place to go to, right? Living in Markham, it's, very family, a little sleepier. There are more busy parts of Markham, of course, as well.
Right.
But Toronto was cool. Toronto was fashion. Toronto was diversity. So it just seemed like the natural progression. And when I started working in salons, I moved to Toronto. So I started to gain clientele in around that area in the East End. I worked in Rosedale for a bit, kind of dabbled in a few different areas.
Yeah.
So it just seemed like the place to be. And especially if I wanted to have clientele that were willing to do certain things or experiment a little bit more, Toronto just had to be the place. And when I first started, the aesthetic was very much like it was almost like a Toronto, like a jazzed up Toronto alleyway with the graffiti and all that. So I tried to make like it match the aesthetic inside to what it is, in the greater area of Toronto. So yeah, Toronto was the place.
Absolutely. Yeah. I felt the same way when again, I didn't grow up that far outside of Toronto either. I grew up in Mississauga, but Toronto was always the cool place to be. It was where all my friends would go on the weekends to party. I wasn't like a huge partier, but this is where like we would all just go to hang out and to just be alive with the city. Like the city never sleeps. I know a lot of people say that about New York, and Toronto's kind of like a mini New York, but it became the place where I could genuinely be myself. And yeah, it was so cool coming to Toronto for the first time, living in Toronto in my late teens. And then I just never left, because like, who wants to go back to like, I don't know, waiting 40 minutes for a bus to go to to go to Square One. I don't know if you've ever been to Mississauga, but Square One is like the big mall.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just like, you know what? Love Mississauga to go back and like visit my family. And I do have family in Markham too. But to live there, not ready yet. Still like the vibrancy of the city, and definitely not ready to leave there yet. So
to visit, okay.
Yeah.
Live, Toronto is the place. Actually, the neon sign that I have, it says, this must be the place. And that's Toronto. This must be the place. Yeah. This must be it. So that's it.
That's true. So the name, where did the name come from?
The name, well, again, I had a business partner at the time.
Yeah.
I initially thought of a different name. And then I was really pressing a friend of mine, a stylist. I was like, you have to come with me, leave where you are, come with me, jump ship, let's do this. Yeah. And finally she decided that she was going to join me. And through that, we kind of decided that the original name that I had chosen was just not vibing. So we ended up just having a chat. We spent a lot of time, we were friends as well. So in the time that we spent together, we just kind of dabbled a little bit back and forth with different names. And then this one just came about as a result of kind of going through certain words and what we wanted to project. And also I wanted to have a bit of like my background, like my dad is from Germany. So German background in there with the umlauts over the U.
Yes.
So we just played around with it, and then it just stuck. So I'm glad that ended up being the name, because I think in hindsight I was like, yeah, the original name, this one works. Let's just say that.
Good. Yeah. And I mean, speaking of, you just asking your friend to sort of like jump ship and make the shift with you with Textur, you being the head honcho, the lady in charge, how has it been from you first starting the studio to now, in terms of finding people to fit Textur's vibe, to fit your personality, and to fit the rest of the studio's personality? How has that been for you, that sort of progression of first starting a business and now you're 7 years in?
Totally. It's definitely changed over years in terms of the climate, and as we both know, this past year has really thrown us through a loop. So in terms of looking for staff, the way we initially looked for staff is very different from the way I look now for staff, in that social media has changed. It's not as typical for someone to come physically and hand in a resume. So a lot of people's resumes, I guess you could say, are on Instagram. So a lot of it is kind of, scoping out people that way. And it's a great way, and as well, because you can see their image. You can see what kind of work do they do? What kind of images are they posting about their personal life? You get a feel for who they are as a person, what types of things they support. And also now in the transition phases of now being on my own running the business, I've made the business cruelty-free and vegan. And so those things now play a large role into communicating what I'm looking for, and also seeing what people offer currently, what they're used to working like, and what their values are as human beings outside of the salon.
Yeah, it's great because you bring up such an excellent point about the change in the way that, or like the definition of what a resume is, especially in more creative industries, or even things like the real estate industry as well. You can tell by going on somebody's Instagram what kind of action they're seeing, if they're selling a lot of homes or helping their clients buy a lot of homes, coming from, the real estate background as well. But I can only imagine from your point of view too, just being able to look on someone's Instagram to actually see what their capabilities are, like what level of expertise that they're at. So that speaks volumes in comparison to what someone may write on a resume, which I think is so cool. I think it's such a great way to, like you said, get to know somebody as an individual, if they're a good fit for your company as an individual, as well as a stylist. And, you've made that change to cruelty-free. And I know quite a while ago now, you guys have more of like a philanthropic sort of angle to the studio as well. And you did, I think it was a fundraiser for, was it particular humane society or shelter?
The Toronto Humane Society. We have partnered up with them a number of times now. Only reason for that stalling now has been the pandemic, really. But it was about a yearly thing that we started doing in recent years. But it'd be usually in around our anniversary time, our yearly anniversary, we'd do some sort of party fundraiser, or we do a month-long, portion of the service goes to them. We've also visited them as a salon, like as a team building thing. So we're very much connected in that way with the vegan and cruelty-free, and also putting that into action, which is important. But to speak as well to attracting stylists that are good for us, we also have to really focus on how are we attractive to people in the stylist realm, stylists that want to work somewhere. Why do you want to work here? There's so many opportunities for stylists now in working, through the pandemic. People were working maybe on their own a little bit, or have dabbled in kind of doing their own thing, or having more autonomy. So why choose to work under a roof? And I think doing things like really understanding what your image is and what you stand for as a company, and your branding and what your offering is so important now if you want to attract certain stylists, because stylists have the ability to rent a chair somewhere or to do their own thing and be mobile. So it really gets the wheels turning on what do we have to offer, and not just what are we offering someone coming in. It's a very equal, we're meeting head to head with stylists in that way. Yeah,
that's great, because they also have to find an environment where they can feel space to grow, and not only as an individual but as a hairstylist. I think that's the best kind of environment to work in, where you feel like you can be yourself and you align so well with the company's values, and you can practice your skills in your truest form. I think to love what you do and do what you love should be everybody's mantra to life. And if you're chasing the dollar, it's just not, it's not what it's all cracked up to be, really. Especially being an entrepreneur too, coming from the entrepreneur's perspective, it's like, it's not about the dollar for a really long time.
And even then it comes and goes, and yeah, you never know. So yeah, absolutely. Like your heart has to be in it at that point. It is not for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
But for all the good reasons too. I completely agree with you.
Yeah. And, just speaking on the topic of, the sort of ebbs and flows of being an entrepreneur, when you first started the studio, did you feel as though, and I'm sure I know where this answer is going, but did you feel as though you were like, whoa, I don't know, it's just a delicate place to be in. And I don't want to like shy anyone away from entrepreneurship, but like you said, it's not for the faint of heart. And I want to allow my guests to sort of describe their experience, especially when they're just starting out, of what it was like for you to go through those ebbs and flows, and how you sort of reframed your mind and thinking like, okay, you know what, I can do this. And when you saw sort of that like first peak of success, that like consistency, if you want to just elaborate.
Yeah, it just reminded me as you mentioned that of what I was saying previously, to the amount of confidence I had in the idea of starting a shop. I had this like overconfidence, I can do it better. But in having a brick and mortar, there was quite a period of time where it went from, I was working full time as a stylist to the eventual opening. So in actually building up the salon, it was just a concrete slab when I entered the space with a 5-year lease. So all of the lighting, the HVAC, everything it was ground up. So in that period of time, in actually physically building the salon, I was doing a little hair on the side, but I wasn't doing my full-time hair. And when you're out of that back-to-back hair rhythm, when you finally are like, oh, tomorrow we're going to open the doors, and you're like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know if I've ever felt so not confident in what I was about to do. So there is that, but then, you're like, I have to show face tomorrow and be that stylist that was booked back to back, forget about the renos, and then get back on track. So it really is, again, that like underlying confidence in yourself, in getting back into that mentality. But there are certainly hiccups along the way. I don't know if I answered your question perfectly there, but
no, absolutely. And I mean,
off a little bit.
No, it's okay. And to have that level of confidence is great in your ability and your idea. And so maybe you can speak on how you went from, okay, having clients back to back, and doing that as the opening of the salon was happening, and then how did you really build that momentum in terms of getting your clientele to be consistent? So was there any sort of like marketing plan that you had in mind that you executed?
I had a very small, more than small budget for marketing at the time. And Facebook, I mean, that was kind of our biggest thing at the time. Even Instagram was kind of, it was definitely there, I believe. Yeah. Yes. But it was, I mean, if you look, when you like go scroll through someone's Instagram to like the early days, and it's kind of like those weird dark filters and stuff, that was the Instagram at the time. So it was a little bit of Facebook. And I did literally walk door to door with pamphlets as well. So we had offerings that we did that way. It was very like low cost type stuff, not even, passing the ball off to Canada Post to deliver it, like literally going door to door and putting things in mailboxes. So that was the tactic. And then it was the mentality of just all right, we're going to work as long as we need to, 10-hour days every day, no receptionist. So we're booking all of our own clients. We're greeting all of our own clients. We're taking the clients, all that stuff, just starting and getting your hands into every little thing until, okay, now it's like we've built up, we're a little bit busier now. Now we can maybe have a part-time receptionist. And then when that happens, then you can it's those little stepping stones. It's like, it's never that like big leap into, I quit my job and then put all into this. Like a lot of the time it's a little bit more, like a slower process.
Yeah.
Very free flowing, but it happens naturally over time.
Yeah. And I'm so happy to hear you say, like, you guys just hit the payment and you guys were just sort of like going door to door, and promoting yourself that way. Because I think a lot of the time, some people may think like, if I don't have a large presence on social media, then my business might not be as successful. But just putting into perspective, I mean, going door to door, that has not gone out of style. Like that is word of mouth or going door to door and people actually seeing your face and hearing the words come out of your mouth and feeling that passion that you have for your business and your service, that never gets old. So yeah, to hear you say that is like, that excites me.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, Instagram is like a huge thing now. We do get clients that way, but word of mouth has, and I think always will be, our biggest selling, feature there, or, the ability to gain new clientele is people telling their friends or walking out with their hair. And it will never get old, really.
Yeah. Definitely not. So I'm going to ask you just a little bit more from like the logistical point of view, because with the podcast, I really want to give, tangible tools to our aspiring Toronto female entrepreneurs of starting their businesses. So when what was sort of your step one of starting Textur in terms of the logistics of it? Like, did you go and register a business number? Like, how did it sort of look?
Well, first, obviously on my own without a business partner, deciding on a name and all the exciting stuff, my dad having owned his own business kind of kept me on track in that way mentally, in that you can do all the exciting stuff, like, thinking of a logo and finding a name, but then, okay, we have to like put this into tangible steps here. So, registering the business name, obviously the business license, that was, big steps I incorporated. And then from there, in changing the business name, I had to create a business underneath that umbrella. So that, those are fairly straightforward steps. I think also then with having a brick and mortar, I had to do, the application for building permits and get all that underway, which can be a lengthy process. I think if there's anyone listening that wanted to have a brick and mortar and needs to do some internal work in their space, getting on those building permits is such a big thing. Sometimes it can be quite the lengthy wait. And I imagine in this climate now with the COVID thing, everything is extended. So that was a big thing. And I did not anticipate that. Brittany, you're bringing me way back 7.5 years ago. But those were the main steps. Obviously, having a solid business plan and a lot of research. Really, I'm sure as in 2021, things have changed a little bit, but the fundamentals are still there, where you have to register your business and make sure you have all your licensing in place. Make sure that you're able to, whatever profession that you have, hire staff. In my industry, there's been a shift between who can hire staff. It used to be that you didn't have to have your license or have to have someone running the business that had their license. And now, so I have to have my hairstylist license in order to have someone working for me in that realm. So
absolutely. Yeah, lots of great tidbits there, because sometimes it differs from like opening a brick and mortar versus running a service space or a virtual brand or business. So it's great to know that, you know, having building permits and that being on the forefront of your mind should be the, you know, one of the first things that you look into, especially with the delays that we're still experiencing with COVID, and all the steps that you sort of have to follow, and contractors having to follow in terms of everything sort of following these COVID guidelines. So really, really helpful tip to know. I would love to ask you a couple more questions that I like to sort of round up as my lightning round. And it's really like one word to like a sentence of a response that I'm looking for. It may be Textur Studio related. It may be a little bit more personal, but I just want the opportunity for people to kind of get to know you and maybe just answer a few questions off the cuff. So one of my first questions is, if you weren't doing hair, and if you didn't own your own hair salon, what do you think you'd be doing?
Ooh, what would I do? Well, I did go to school for psychology. I initially wanted to get into music therapy. I had worked, in my high school years, I'd worked at a place called Center for Dreams for adults with developmental disabilities. And there was a snooze-in room in there, which housed at times a music therapist. And it was just the most magical experience I've ever seen go down. Like someone who couldn't find a way to silence themselves, like verbally, echolalia and all that kind of stuff, just went silent upon hearing music. And it was awesome. So that was kind of a path I was considering for a while. And that's something I would, in another lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that would be awesome. Really cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's fantastic. And just like such great value to, to our persons of need. And yeah, I mean, music is just one of those things where it's so versatile in the sense that to one person, it can just sort of like uplift you and sort of get you out of some dark times. And it can be used as a form of therapy as well. So I definitely love music for that. All right, next question. What I want to know is, what got you into adopting your second dog? So I don't know, like, is Burger adopted, or you had Burger when she was a little puppy?
I had Burger when she was a puppy.
Okay.
Burger is now 9.5.
I can't believe it.
Yeah. She's an old mare now. So Burger, no, I did not adopt Burger, but now knowing what I know, and simultaneously with the business and changing all that, vegan, all that, cruelty free, it's going about it that way, and taking Burger on is not something I would do with breeders in the future. But I do have an adopted dog now. I've had her for a few years, and there's a documentary about the place where I got her from, and I had watched a number of documentaries from this place. I have about 1,200 dogs, and I planned a trip to Costa Rica on my own, and just decided to take off in my car rental. And I was getting closer and closer to this place I had seen in documentaries, and they were not allowing anyone in that day. But I was like, I drove 6 hours, and they let me into the sanctuary. And Pecas, my dog, which means freckles in Spanish, she was following me around all day. I spent the whole day there and just spoke with people that work there, and she just followed me around, and I was like, oh my goodness. Uh-oh.
Oh, I think I'm taking a dog home.
And I was in contact with them. I'm like, she has to move. She has to come with me. All of her puppies were adopted out, so she was left there without her puppies, and I was like, I can't leave her. So she flew over here. She's a world traveler, and she's the sweetest thing ever.
And she is. I mean, like when we were chatting before, she was just sort of like all nestled up on the couch or like under the table. Like she's just so chill and cute and docile. And hopefully one day you can bring her to the salon so I can meet her, because she's so cute.
Oh, I know. She makes her appearance here and there. She's definitely a dog. So
yeah,
working, sometimes it goes with music, other times not so much. So she makes an appearance and then she goes on her adventures during the day. So
Cool. Good. That's good. And again, like just like music, dogs are such a great form of therapy, and they're just like, they love you unconditionally, and they're just the best presence to have around. And the fact that you had the opportunity to take one from, you know, sort of unfortunate circumstances and, you know, give her a better life is, I've wanted to do it. I think, you know, once I sort of make sure that I have like a good steady schedule and it'll be fair for the dog, I think adoption is definitely the route that I'd want to take, because there's so many dogs out there that need homes.
Oh, there's so many, to a point where, you know, I would have another 5 if I could, but for the exact reasons that you're mentioning, it's also good, you know, it's the idea that, you know, when you're on a plane, if you put your mask on first before you put a mask on
Somebody else.
another. So it's for those exact reasons. It's like you do need to make sure that you can give in the way you want to give. Otherwise, it's a disservice, right? So, but I'm so lucky to have her for sure. They're quite the pair.
They are. Oh my god, and they get along great. They're good.
They do. You know, they have their little areas. Yeah. But they're, you know, my bigger dog is very protective of Burger now that she's losing her eyesight. So they're siblings.
They're good pals. Awesome. Okay. Final question. If there was a song, because music is such a part of the experience of going into Textur Studio, if there was a song that you could think of that would define your personality, what would be that song?
Ooh, that's a very good question. You know what? I will say that in the time of, you know, now not having the tangible CDs, I listen to songs all the time. I listen to songs constantly throughout the day. Yeah. Every single day of my life, at the salon, when I get home, in the morning getting ready. And I know none of the actual titles of these songs. So, but the question was, what song would
best defines you?
Best define me.
It could be an old song. It could be a new song. It could be any song.
Ooh, oh my gosh, quite on the spot. That's such a good question. I think I would have to describe the characteristics of a song more than the song title.
Okay.
Describe me.
Take your time.
It would just have to be a really, I guess, like a fun, dynamic, colorful song, like something that has a lot of heart to it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I could like have all my songs like on the list right now. Okay. But, like probably a rock song, something a little bit, you know,
edgy.
Yeah, a little edgy, a little colorful. Yeah. I can't even think of a song right now.
I like it. No, I like it because I think
honestly, like I would probably put one song on and then I would switch that song over and then I would switch that song over. So if that tells you anything, that's my answer. I would be changing the song halfway through to many different songs.
You know what? And I share that habit with you because I think throughout the day I go through so many different moods, and you play a song that sort of fits that mood, or the mood that maybe you're trying to get yourself into. For example, like when you're getting ready for a workout, or a bike ride, or, you know, a walk with your dogs. It's just, you're setting the tone for so many different things that happen in your life. So I totally understand like continuously switching songs to something else. But I like that description, like having a song that's sort of like upbeat, fun loving, but also like with an edge. So maybe like a bit of, you know, rock to it as well. I think that is like a great way to describe your personality for sure.
Thanks. Well, I mean, now after this, I'm going to be looking through my song list. I mean, like, would that be a song that I would choose? But yeah.
All right. It is all good. No, yeah. Like I said, loved the description, and we're kind of like, we're on the same wavelength in terms of like wanting to sort of switch things depending on our mood or what's going on in our day. So I love that. But I want to thank you so much for, again, taking the time out and coming to chat with me about Textur. and really getting to like the nitty gritties of how you started the business, how things are going, and how you sort of shaped it to reflect your personality. And I think, like I said, when you find something that you do what you love and love what you do, you have truly reached a level of happiness that is like unmatched. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing that journey and continuing to just, exude that vibrancy through Textur and the amazing service that you guys provide. Again, guys, a staple in Toronto, specifically in the Leslieville area. You have to go and check out Textur Studio. I will allow Allison to plug herself, but Allison, where can everyone go and find Textur on social media or book an appointment?
So yes, on social media, our main platform right now is Instagram. It's the way you can see all of our work. You can see our personality on there, our address, the way to book, all that stuff. So we're at Textur Studio. It's TEXTUR Studio. And we're 1201 Dundas Street East. That name is about to change, actually. The street name will change, but that's why it's good to follow us on at Textur Studio so that you can find out any details that are changing and to book an appointment or give us a call, 416-465-3737.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Allison. I am very excited for my appointment that is coming up. I'm excited for like a whole new look. It's been too long, and it's been like, I think, a year and a half. I think I haven't done anything to my hair, and I don't plan on allowing anyone to touch my hair until I enter your doors. So I am very much looking forward to that. Thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you so much, Brittany. It was an awesome time.